Hey there, welcome to Leading Change Conversations, the podcast where we tackle real life challenges with leaders like you to make organizational change a breeze. In this episode, you will discover the complexity of handling agility of a startup. And we will also transfer these insights in how you can handle change and instability in the organization you are working for. I am Ulrike and I train, coach, and inspire leaders to turn into successful change agents, to communicate with impact, and to lead with authenticity. So now let me introduce you to our amazing guest of today, founder and CEO Poorya Amini. Poorya obtained a master's degree in veterinary medicine before pursuing a PhD in immunology, where his research focused on investigating pharmacological candidates in the preclinical stage. Following this, he pursued a diploma of advanced studies in clinical trial practice and management. For over 7 years, Poorya served as a trial project manager at a clinical research organization. During this time, he noticed significant issues with how clinical trial protocols were developed, prompting him to explore solutions. So in 2019, Poorya founded RiskClick, dedicating himself to creating the first AI-driven solution aimed at streamlining clinical trial protocol development. Welcome, Poorya.
Yeah, thank you very much for the nice introduction and invitation. Really excited to our conversation.
Yes, me too, because you have a very complex task actually in your role as a founder and CEO, because you're managing a startup that is heavily depending also on the need and the input from your clients or customers. Why is that so complicated? Can you explain us and give us a bit of background?
Yeah, I think like all the startups at the beginning, you are trying to explore the market. You are trying to explore the customer need because most of the startup, they have an innovation that they try to make it for the first time. First of all, I mean, you go through the exploration phase to understand, okay, how to make a market fit products, how you can change it, you can make it better, more, we make it more efficient. And this is the in the nature of the startup. And at the beginning, of course, you have an idea, but get the idea more concrete, get it more mature. This is all the way that bring more complexity and uncertainty to some extent that you need to incorporate in the company.
Mm. So usually when there is a CEO or even a senior leader or even a middle management leader, usually leaders try to make kind of a plan for the year. We have these yearly goal setting and all of these very classic stuff. And then we all know that we can't fully stick to it, but we can stick to it to a certain extent. And most of the time, there are only really some unforeseen things happening here and there that make us not stick to the plan. Now, what is the difference in your area if you compare it to a classic setup?
I think, we try also to have a plan. We always try to have a plan. We have a vision. We have, of course, a mission to achieve. We have the deliverables that for all the team member that they need to deliver. We have a time estimate for all the deliverable, everything plan. But of course, we try to be flexible with the plan as well. But at the same time, we need to keep in mind our vision. Yeah, we shouldn't jump from one topic to another topic. We have one task that to deliver, of course, but the way that we do the task, deliver the task needs a little bit more flexibility, I would say, in the startup because you constantly receive the feedback from the customer side, from the expert, and then all the time you need to evaluate if this is valid, this adds value to my product. If so, then how I can integrate it in my solution without losing the focus. Of course, I think what we try to do it in our startup to be the laser focus. We don't want to do many things. We want to do one thing which is developing a high quality clinical trial protocol, but really with a high quality and the best software. That's aim. But to achieve that, we accept the flexibility. For example, if this function is not addressing the need of the customer, okay, we kill the function. We replace the function with somebody else, something else. I mean, we don't really try to be stubborn on our idea or insist on the initial idea. Of course, we have a plan, we have an idea, but at the same time, try to be flexible and always think about the from the customer side, what is the value for the customer, and develop a customer centric product. And this bring the agility and flexibility to our startup.
Mhm. And I think customer centricity is something that many organizations aim to have more of, because often things have been done similarly, let's say, not exactly the same maybe, but for years and years and years. And at the end, it's not really fitting at all anymore to the customer. And then this question of customer centricity comes up. Are we really focused on the customer? And I think you are very much, because you're working like really hand in hand with them while you develop your product. But that also has obviously then a downside, which means that the people who are working on the product and on the development, they might work on something for a few days or maybe even for a few weeks. And then, well, they learn like it's useless. We need something else. And this is obviously, or can be, a great, great factor or a reason for frustration. How do you handle this? How do you help people to handle that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we need to accept that the type of customer that we are working, they are really busy and they have a lot of tasks to do. We try, first of all, to make it really small or make it really small task for them to do it and more simple. And if they do, I mean, they test it and they tell us, no, this is useless, of course it hurts, but then we need to digest it. We need and not with one customer, but if we get this feedback from 2 3 people and we think that, yeah, the argument is really logic, then we need to digest it and we need to change.
Yeah.
That bring a lot of change and agility to, especially to our startup that we try to be customer centric. And sometimes they are right, because we didn't understand their work process. We didn't understand, okay, how these people are working in the big organizations, and we had the let's say the ideal scenario in mind. That's why we developed that based on the ideal scenario, but the real world is a little bit different. Yeah. And then when we go to the real world, then we get this feedback and we need to really digest this feedback. But at the same time, we need to also understand our capability and our limitation. Is a trade-off. You get a lot of wish list from the customer, and now you need to sort out which one has the priority, which one has a more value for the customer, and which one we can implement it with our capability, and from the business perspective, which one has the priority and bring more value also for the company, and then we implement this change.
Yeah, so it's a step-by-step approach, actually, as I understand. Everybody needs just to follow. And I can imagine that for people, the first, I don't know how to say, products or projects or programs, whatever they delivered. And I thought, I did my best. That is the best solution I can do. And then the customer says, no, that's not working for us. That's not what we need. And it was really frustrating to get then motivated again, because it's a change, it's a permanent change. So then they have to change again and work with the same, how to say, the same discipline, the same motivation, the same eagerness to succeed on the next version and on the next version and on the next version. So I think it's nearly a lifestyle actually to work in a startup. But I can imagine that it's not easy, to have all people on board and to have people work with this kind of work lifestyle every single day. How do you manage that? How do you manage it with the people?
Yeah, because as you said, you have a lot of passion about what you are doing in a startup. Yeah, this is a part of your life. You have a mission to deliver, and every day that you wake up, you have this in mind, and me and the whole team basically that we are doing. And you think that you did your best, and as you said, when you present it, uh, then you might get frustrated if you get a negative feedback or people tell you, no, this is not good. But what I try to share with my team, and then I try also to work on myself to some sort of get a vaccination before going to this type of discussion, to prepare ourselves, guys. Not always the people should tell something nice about us, then all not always the feedback should be positive. Yeah, we should prepare ourselves to get also the negative feedback as well. And this is, I feel, is a some sort of the preparation, and I would call it some sort of the vaccination before going to get the real negative feedback, that you're ready to get the negative feedback, and you digest it more easily, I would
Yeah.
say.
I think it's a question of definition of success, actually, because I think most people were raised with the idea you do something and then it's approved by whoever, and that's a success. At least it needs to be approved by yourself first and by someone, yeah, who is the customer of whatever you deliver. And moving away from this perspective is not easy, I can imagine, depending on the person. If it's a very success and result oriented person, they want to see results quickly. And this is exactly the opposite of what they have to do in your area, because it's not happening like that. So they have to understand success is not having the result and the approval of the client right away. Success is the journey. The error as such is a learning and a success. Are you positioning it like that with the people as well?
Yeah, we try to do it because, as you mentioned, is a process. Yeah, and from the beginning, this is clear for all of us that this product development, the software development, is the process. It doesn't mean that from the beginning we could develop a really optimal software. Yeah, we can put our idea, and we wanted to basically present our idea to the expert, give access to the expert, and then get the feedback and integrate the expert feedback to get to the mature product. And this is, as I said, always we try to remind ourselves this is the process. And even negative feedback is a feedback, is a value. These people sharing the experience with you, and you is a part of the success, because you could basically get their experience to help you to grow the product and make a more mature product, which eventually, if they like it and you convince them, then yes. Um, but don't expect to get it immediately. That's, I think, is more regarding the expectation management of the whole team. What do you expect to get?
Yeah, that's absolutely, it's absolutely right. And I think for those who are listening, who are working in organizations, every organization always goes through change, but obviously not on that fast pace. I mean, we have the feeling it's a fast pace, but compared to a startup, it's not that fast yet. So that it can be even worse. And I think for people working in organizations where you can see, okay, we have a change ahead, we had to change our opinion because midway we found out that it doesn't work like we have planned it out, and this is when people show usually quite a lot of resistance because they had in mind it will work like this. This is what we were told, that it will be like this. And then it's not like this. And this is always something that creates a lot of resistance. Whereas that's something that you're living permanently, I guess, probably weekly or even more often. I don't know. That's something that happens. It's like, no, it's not like this. It's like this now. And now it's like this and not like this anymore. And you move on step by step. What you said in the beginning, you mentioned it very briefly. Do you link it to a higher purpose for people so that they can see or link it to something that is more of a long-term result, a valid and valuable contribution on something that will make a change in your area? Can people, adhere to that, to accept all these mini changes every week or every day?
Yet, I mean, I tried to be really honest and open with my team, and I told them, guys, look, I have an idea, but maybe not 100% correct. And we need to put it in the process. We need to get a lot of feedback. We need to test it in the market. We need to test it with the expert to get it more concrete and get it more mature. And once we have it, then we achieve a product which is the market fit product. Everybody like it. When you present it, you get this feeling that, yeah, people like it. You're adding value to the people. You make the life of people easier. And of course, for us, we try to keep always the patient in mind. And this is not just the cliche to say, yeah, we want to keep it, but we really mean it, because of course we want to run the business, we want to create a product, we want to make big business and grow, but at the same time we keep in mind that we are doing for patient, and any of us in any moment can be a patient, ourselves or our family. Just imagine that, yeah, one of your family member has cancer, or one of the disease that is still, the cure is not available, and you would do anything to find the treatment.
Mm.
And we believe we can really reduce the time of the product development and drug development, means that we can give faster access to the patient. And this is the big aim that we try to keep in mind all the times, and is not only the business achievement, and also a moral and ethical point of view.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, you're saving lives basically. If something comes to the market 2 or 3 years earlier, those who wouldn't have gotten it 2 or 3 years earlier might have died. I mean, if it's a serious disease, then that makes a real difference, even if you will never count it or get any statistics about that later on. But that's what's at stake. So I can imagine that for people really buying into this emotionally and then accepting all the inconveniences that come with it can work very well. Now, what I can imagine as well is you have, in a startup, you don't have many people. It's a small group of people. They know all each other. Obviously, they have different personalities, different backgrounds, and you have to hire certain specialists as well. How difficult is it to close, that gap between having a personality that accepts this way of working, but also has all the qualifications that you need? I can imagine that it's not always easy.
Yeah, it's really challenging, but I think, like all the leaders, you need to know your team, you need to know their personality and how to communicate with them. I think the communication is really important. The way that you communicate to the changes to people need to be adapted to the personality of the people, because some people are more open to changes. You can directly talk to them and tell them, hey guys, we need to change that part. They don't mind, they just try to do it. But some people might, the change might be stressful, yeah, and then you need to communicate that very slowly with some salt on the top, and put a little bit flavor around it, yeah, and bring more logic to it. Yeah, this is the reason for the change, this is the background of the change. Of course, we thought this is right. Now, with all the discussion we had so far and so forth, then we need to change it, and then slowly prepare them to accept the change. But I think, yeah, anyway, I mean, we are all human. I completely understand it. If I'm working 2 weeks on something and somebody come and tell me, hey man, this is not useful anymore, and then you need to change it. I mean, it's not easy to accept, I would say.
Yeah, it's really hard. Thank you for doing the great job, but it was useless. Sorry. You will not pronounce it like that. But what you said is super important. And I'm a big defender, and all my trainings are based on that, actually. That you need to customize your message to the individual people in your team. Because, like you say, some can hear that easily. Some just embrace the fact that, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't matter. I can invest myself in that. At least I try something new. And maybe in 2 weeks I learn it's not working and I try something new again. And others really need much more information. They need to really understand the why, and they need to be able to evaluate themselves if the why, this whole effort, is worth the effort. And you cannot tell that to them. You need to deliver them the information. And sometimes they need a lot of detail, some people, so that they have the feeling they can for themselves analyze the situation and say, yes, I will do it again for the next 2 weeks. And if it doesn't work, I will do it again for another 2 weeks. But it's a very different journey, I think, for different people. And it's great to hear that you can do it like that. How big is your team? How many people do you have right now?
We are 17. We are still a small team, and we are still enjoying the advantage of being a small and agile team. I don't know how it's gonna be in the future. Of course, in the future it would be more complex, not as easy as now to change, to manage all the changes and directly have the I would say the privilege to talk directly to the people and know all the people personality, how to communicate with them. But now of course I understand also the challenge of the big corporate, because you don't have the opportunity to know all people, the personality of the people and so on, because of the size of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have that luxury that you can speak to everybody personally. You know all of them. They know all the others too. So they know how people, what's the mechanisms they have in their head and in their heart. And if I bring it back, something what is usually happening in organizations, in bigger ones, is also that people feel disconnected from the message from the top because it feels so far away. So you have that luxury, it's really close. And what you said very early on in this conversation was also that you always try to have a very open and honest discussion, so that people do not have that feeling, oh, there's maybe a hidden agenda behind that or something. You just tell what you have heard from the customer and what needs to be done. And you will also admit if you suppose that something would work like this, but it didn't at the end. So it's all to think about. And we had another episode around this admitting mistakes, one of these things. It's really, I think in a small group, it's obviously easier than in a big one. And if you're the CEO or if for 10 years of 20,000 people, yes, it's a different story and you have different mechanisms of behavior that are already ingrained. But I think people can learn from this smallness. And maybe those who have big organizations think of, well, how does Poorya handling that? How does he handling this with 17 people? Okay, I have also I don't know, 9 direct reports, for example, in my senior leadership team. How do actually I handle this with these 9? Because these are just then the multipliers for the rest of the organization. Do I handle it like this? Imagine you only had these 9 and nobody else. What would you do differently? I think that's maybe something that people could learn from our discussion today, and really get to know them very consciously, because often we don't do that. We know the people, but we have never actively reflected on what they need to hear, something which you did for your 17 people. Most likely, I would suggest, or I think, or suspect, let's say, that if you haven't hired all the 17 at the same time. They came in one by one. So you always had that time selecting them, getting them to know even before they started the job in a certain way. So you had an idea you have in front of you. And I can imagine that you have grown with this. Is it like that? Because it's your first role as a CEO, right? Have you grown into it? Because you started in 2019. It's quite a journey already, a few years. How did that work, just as a last insight into your activity?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we had this luxury to build the team step by step. Basically, I was alone. This is my first role as a CEO and the founder. And this is really good because I'm not talking to all these 17 people every day, but at least I know them. If I don't talk to them regularly, I know them. And when I talk to their manager, then I just try to brainstorm with the manager how to make them also happy, make the environment friendly, and they can express their opinion and they accept the task and changes. And I think what is important for me, as you nicely mentioned, is that admitting the mistake. I think we shouldn't afraid of saying that we are making mistake. Yeah, I can clearly tell them, guys, yes, my idea was wrong. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I was thinking about that, and this helps. And the other point, I think, which is really important to openly discuss with the people, because several times I get an idea or I hear something, I go to the team, I try to discuss with them, and immediately they convince me, no, 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 you are wrong. You're right. So yeah, guys, thank you very much. That's that's uh, that's all what I wanted to discuss with you, and not giving them the task that yeah you need to do that. Basically, try to first discuss it if that makes sense to do it. Is it logic? And then convince each other. Either I convince them with my argument that I have, then they accept to do it, or they convince me, no, this is doesn't make sense. Then I like, yeah, fair enough. We
Yeah.
shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I think that's important to put all the brains in work. It's not only me. I make a lot of mistake. I correct myself even by talking to you and the colleague and next one, and try to encourage them to do the same process with me and other colleagues as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think this is the everything you said in the past 2-3 minutes is really a great learning that every leader can transfer into their lives with people, because we don't have to think, because I'm a leader, I have to know it all. I have to position myself in a certain way. You could have thought as well, oh, I'm the founder. I've created this idea, so I must be the one who knows it all. And if I don't, then I have to hide it away. And it's exactly the opposite, because people buy into more or less any kind of change, even into any challenge or stressful situation, if they have the feeling they know what it's all about, that people are honest with them, that they know what's going on, and that they're also the other way around. What you also say, it's very important that they are listened when they have a good idea how we can do things better, and that there's not one person who is always knows it better than all the others, because that obviously kills ideas for a startup. That's a killer situation. But even in a big organizations struggle so much with getting ideas from people, because people gave up on giving ideas and on speaking about it, because they have the feeling they're not listened to. So I think that's one of the probably biggest lessons that any kind of leader can learn from how to manage a startup, is really to have this permanent exchange. And even if time is rare and scarce, even then, even more so, because that can really help to avoid some additional work or avoid any kind of additional mistakes which might have happened if there was no discussion. Yeah, Poorya, time was flying, really. We started like 5 minutes ago. We started 30 minutes ago. So thank you very, very much. If there's any last word that you want to say to the audience.
Yeah, thank you very much for the nice discussion. It also passed very fast the time, and yeah, I'm also in the learning process and try to learn from the other leaders and also all the times from my team how to do my job the best. Because yeah, as you mentioned, is my first role as a CEO, but I think I will try to keep the same approach and learning from the people, because you are only one brain, you have limited experience. And when you talk to the people, get feedback, and also learn from them, then you can improve the, the way that you work or you manage the company.
Thank you, Poorya. And thank you to our audience for tuning into Leading Change Conversations today. And if you want to improve your own skills on leading change or communicating more effectively, check out my courses for individuals on my website. We have a bunch of useful online live classes of around 90 minutes around overcoming procrastination, surmounting change resistance, communicating with impact, or also influencing through presence. And until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and making a difference. Thank you.